Welcome to Module 8 of Applying Thoughts. In this module, we will talk about implementation plan and presenting the idea. So we will discuss about how to design an action plan. We'll also discuss a 4-step format to give a persuasive presentation to your stakeholders. And in this module, I will also explain the final submission of the real-life case study and the format in which you will have to submit it. So the creative problem solving model on which we have been working in this course, now we have reached the 4th step of it, that is plan for action. Now step 4 implementation has two main questions that need to be answered. First, now that the decision has been made, how will it be implemented? And how will we know that we are successful? So it's not only that you're going to decide who does what when, it's also whether we have succeeded or not. So a regular checkpoint or a review also has to be planned with that. The implementation stage has 4 key points which you have to keep in mind. The first one is identify who might assist you in the process. Getting the right people for the right job is extremely critical for the success of the implementation plan. Second is identify the tools and resources required in the process. So initially only you should have designed the tools and resources that you will be required, so that if there is any interdepartmental liaising that is required, if something has to be procured, if something has to be arranged, or timelines have to be decided, or something has to be shared amongst teams, that can all be arranged. This point becomes extremely important for creative problem solving because we are dealing with complex and complicated problems here, where not just the cause and effect, but even the impact will have interdependencies. Then we are talking about gaining acceptance and enthusiasm about the solution. Extremely important, because even the best of the plans can fail if people are not involved in it, if they have not bought it in. So it's extremely important that before you start the implementation, people who are involved in the implementation have bought the idea, believe in the idea, and are actually committed to make it a success. And the last is start date is determined and the key milestones set. Now the key milestones are again extremely important, because this is where your review dates will also be accordingly planned, and the start date along with an end date or potential end date is mentioned, so that whenever the status update or the review happens, it's easy to see how much we have covered, have we solved the problem, how close we are, and what are the challenges that we are facing in the process. Conduct regular reviews. Just designing an implementation plan or distributing it is not sufficient. Once the plan starts working on the ground, people may face multiple challenges, and that's why review is extremely important. The project implementation now needs to be monitored by the group to ensure their recommendations are followed. And monitoring includes checking milestones are met, which is extremely important, so that you know that you're on time, or if there are any other challenges there, you can solve it. Costs are contained, resources are taken care of, necessary work is completed. So these are the few factors you have to keep in mind while designing the implementation review or implementation plan. Now the key success factors for an implementation plan. Monitored and data collected to ensure outcome is attained. So at this stage, now we are going to look at the performances and the data, the timelines that have been set, how much have been met, and what is the information that's percolating. Set feedback mechanisms to ensure milestones are attained, costs are contained, work is completed. And this is why feedback or review is extremely important. And when we talk about feedback, what we are looking at is collection of data, accurate defined reporting mechanisms. So in the implementation plan, a clearly defined reporting mechanism or the review mechanism, not just the time but also the person responsible for it, is extremely important. Regular updates from the team leader. So there has to be clarity of role, there has to be clarity of purpose, and all the big roles or the big goals have to be further subdivided into simple tasks, and people have to be given simple tasks with the start date and the responsibilities and the resources clearly defined. Now all of this information is given in your handbook. Please, I request you to go to your handbooks and read the implementation page of it, and which also has a small table which you can use as a model format to design implementation plan. Now action review process. Now you have designed the implementation plan, you have designed the milestones, you have set the review meetings in between. Now the question is, when we come to the review meetings, what do we discuss? Now this is what I call the ARP, action review process. So whenever this kind of a feedback process is being done, whenever this kind of a review process is being done, you need to ask yourself some questions. I mean, yourself and your team, some questions. First, what did we set out to do? Second, what actually happened? Third, why did it happen? Fourth, what are we going to do next time? Now, this review is extremely important, not just at the end of the process, but also in the middle of the process, so that we are able to overcome the potential challenges, and wherever possible, we are able to anticipate potential challenges to make sure that we are able to follow the timelines and solve the problem within the limitations that we have. Like I just shared with you, in the handbook there is a reading section by the name Implement the Solution and Follow Up. Please read it. It has much more detail on review plan, on how to design an implementation plan, along with the format provided for this. Read it before you progress to the last exercise in this module, because in the last exercise you will be designing an implementation plan. Now we come to an extremely important part of the creative problem solving model. Now we have identified the problem, found the root cause, done the brainstorming, identified the solution, and even designed an implementation plan. But that is not enough. At the end of the day, your stakeholders have to have a buy-in. Your team has to have a buy-in. The people involved in the process has to have a buy-in. So this is the 4-step model through which you present your creative problem solving model to authorities, to management, to stakeholders, and to your team, to help them understand its importance and get their approval, or to get them on your side. The first step is, how can you gain acceptance for this solution? Second question is, how can you build enthusiasm? Third is, who might resist or need to be convinced? So once this list is ready, that's when you go ahead and deliver the 4-step presentation. The first step of the presentation involves state the problem statement clearly. Now this is why defining the problem is extremely important, and we've discussed that in the module where we discussed in detail why should you define a problem, and this is one of the reasons. Once a problem is defined, it can be very clearly and specifically communicated to the audience, and it becomes easier for them to understand your perspective and to understand the problem. The second is, identify the challenges, the current state, present supporting data. Now, after having shared the problem statement, what we need to share is the current state and the challenges in the current state. Once you have identified that, and then you need to give supporting data to prove that what you are sharing has been documented or can be proved. For example, in the case of the thrust shoe case study, once the problem statement that the two right and the two left shoes were going to separate customers, then comes identifying the challenge. What is the current challenge? The customer satisfaction ratio is not there, is down, getting a lot of complaints. Then again, once the new order was on its way, the problem was that with the customer satisfaction being down, the complaints coming up, there was a challenge over the new order. So we're talking about the current state where this problem is occurring. What are the challenges that you're facing in the supporting data? Then we talk about the present, to present the benefits of solving the problem. Now it's not just simply sufficient to prove that there is a problem. The other thing that we need to convince the people we are talking to is that there is a benefit in solving this problem. This is the opportunity part of it, or the pluses, or the opportunity part of the point system. Now this is something that has to be extremely clearly defined, and you should be able to present it very clearly. So use the future desired state and the benefits. If you're using the point system, take the opportunity section of it and highlight that here. So it's not only that you're going to be overcoming the challenges in the current state, what are the opportunities that this solution can create for you in the future? And then comes the last step. This is where you propose your solution with its benefits and issues, if any. Share supportive data. It's always recommended to share whatever issues you might be anticipating at this platform, so that it builds rapport rapport and camaraderie with your audience, knowing that you are being honest and open with them. And at the same time, there is a possibility that the audience, once bought into your idea, can also come up with ways to overcome the challenge and the issues that you're facing. So this is a 4-step presentation model. So very simply, if you look at it, the first 3 steps are only proving the problem. You're sharing the solution only in the last step. That's how critical defining the problem is in getting the buy-in of the people. They need to understand what the problem is and why solving it is important. What are the challenges you're facing in the current state and what are the benefits it can yield to them in the future. And then you suggest the solution of how to approach and resolve this problem. Now we come to exercise number 18. Now, for exercise 18, design a tentative implementation plan for the real life scenario you have been working on in the previous modules. So till module number 7, we have been working on the real life scenario which you had picked up from your work, on which you have been applying these entire creative problem solving model techniques. So right from defining the problem statement to conducting a root cause analysis to conducting a brainstorming or a divergent thinking process to come up with at least 3 solutions, and then using evaluation matrix or point or both, whatever works for you, in order to identify one solution. And at this stage, you will design a implementation plan using the format given in your handbook. Now, it's understandable that this implementation plan may need more people because its application may be interdepartmental or may need support from others. So for this presentation, so although it is recommended that you discuss with those people and create an implementation plan for this real life scenario, because the objective is to actually solve it. But if that is going to take time, create a tentative plan based on the format and share it in the final report. So now we come down to exercise number 19, which is where the final submission report has to be designed. Now you need to create and submit your report on the real life scenario you have chosen in module 4. And a format for the submission has been provided. It's an Excel form which you will receive. It's titled as exercise 19 submission report format. It's an A3 report format and with specific columns, which I'll explain you in the next slide. And what you need to do is an editable sheet. Just enter all your data in that sheet and save it. At the top of the sheet, it says your name and your employee code. Please enter that. It will ask you to cover certain, it will ask you for certain amount of information, which you have been working on since module 4. You have to enter all the information that you have been doing in the previous exercises in this particular Excel sheet and submit it to me. So here are the instructions. So once compiled, submit the report at strategichr in zoho.com by 10 p.m. on 22nd June 2020. The report should contain the following data: a clearly defined problem statement, current challenges of the situation, desired future state, what is the goal that you want to achieve by solving this problem, root cause analysis, fishbone or 5 why, the preferred solution selected in module 7 using convergent techniques, and an implementation plan. Like I shared in the previous slide, it can be tentative, although I'll recommend you to conduct a proper analysis and create a real implementation plan. Sample report format has been explained in the handbook. Read it before writing the report. So please keep that in mind, and I'll also take you through. In this particular slide, I'll take you through the 6 sections which you will have to fill in your Excel sheet. The first section will be called background. This is where you make the business case for selecting the problem. Clearly state how the problem impacts the business. So what you're doing out here is clearly showing exactly what is the current problem and how it's impacting the business if the current situation is not resolved. Then we're talking about current condition or problem statement. So here you design the problem statement. Then there is a root cause analysis. The Excel sheet will have a given fishbone structure. You can add your information into there. Then you have the target or the goal statement, where you will have to describe what will be that you are looking at the end. How will you know you achieved the goal? So if you, for example, you have picked up a problem where you're talking about, I'll have to, let's say, I'll have to, reduce the attrition in my team. In that case, reduce the attrition by 10% in my team will be your problem statement, and the condition or the goal statement will be that let's say 90% of my people will complete 1 year into service, next 1 year into service with me. Or similarly, what is it, the final situation should be described absolutely clearly, as in what is it that it will look like for you to know that you've achieved it. So give it specific, clear timelines. Next is implementation plan. So this is where the format from the handbook can be used, and put an implementation plan, and your report format already has one built into that. And finally is the follow-up. Please do put up a approximate follow-up plan as well. So I wish you all the very best for your submission. And after this, in the last module, we will review the main components that we have covered across this course. In case there is any challenge that you face in completing this report, please go back to the modules, review these videos, read through your handbook. Everything has been explained in detail, and then do this exercise step by step as it has been done in every module, and then simply take that data and put it into that MS Excel format.